really check your history and yourself.
Stop playing politics with my Punanny. Stop playing politics with my Punanny. Hey, 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 Republicans. I see you called on your fellow man. All dicks and no nuts. Then you rush to call me a slut. I'm standing up for what is mine. Call me the rib, but I'm really the spine of this whole great nation. Ain't gonna put me back on the plantation. No, stop playing politics with my Punanny.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the show. We are here for our third, I'm like giving both hands, but our third episode of Punanny Politixxx. I am really excited to be here tonight. Yeah, I am really psyched. So my guest for tonight, as I know most of you are aware, if you've been checking out my posts, my guests for tonight are guitarist, composer Kat Dyson and State Senator Pat Spearman. So we're about to really just get into it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to waste a lot of time because there's a lot to talk about. Both of these women are like phenomenal. Their bios alone could take the whole hour just to read because they are really amazing. So I'm just going to get into it. But I do want to say one thing. I know you're probably wondering, why I got my Prince earring on tonight, because Kat Dyson's in the house. So, and you're about to find out all the things. So I figured I would get my Prince-ness on, get my little purple lipstick, my purple earring. And, I was trying to figure it out, like what to wear tonight, because it's like you got politics, you got music. And I was like, I want to be a little rock and roll, but but you got to be a little, not quite conservative, but get your little suit on. So I was like, I have ruffles. I have lace ruffles that covers all the bases. So I got my gear. We're ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So just to get into it a little bit before I bring my guests on. Last week, because there were 2 weeks between between the shows, a lot had happened. And even though I feel like every week a lot happens, but there was one thing that happened this week that I'm not going to talk too much about, but I'm just going to say, like I said before, what the hell happened? Okay, so as many of you may or may not know, or maybe did not hear, there was a professor at George Washington University, a white woman who decided, like, for the better part of her adult life, she was going to try and pass herself off as a Black woman. And various, even, types of Black women, what I'm saying is sometimes she was a Black Afro-Latina. Sometimes she was a Black American. Sometimes she was a North African. Yes, this is how deep it went. But what I'm just going to show you is because one of the reasons why I really love New York sometimes so much is that the Daily News or the New York Post will sometimes just come up with the best headlines. So I just want to share this one because really, I love the Daily News. I sometimes wish I was like in the room when people were coming up with these headlines, but I'm not going to give her too much time. If you want to know about her, you can just Google, she is Rachel Dolezal number 2.0, as they say. I'm not going to give her a whole lot of time because I was, next week though, I think, because I started writing something about like Black women, and it's interesting how like people want to be us, but you don't really want to be us. Like, it's that thing of everything but the burden. And that is kind of what happened with Homegirl. So I'm not going to give her a whole lot of airtime. I'm just going to leave it at that. So tonight, we are really going to get into voting and, what is really at stake with voting. We're going to get into it because there's a lot going on. So I just want to share with you before I bring my guests on. So my beautiful pastors, I go to Celebration Spiritual Center. Yes, I'm going to shout them out because that's my church, not church. That's what I say all the time. But I love them. But I love them because they are, civic minded, very politically active, really about it. So they shared some information with us this past Sunday that they said that I could also go on and share with you. So voting, here we go. Plan your vote. Register to vote if you're not already registered. If you're not already registered to vote and you're a grown person, I don't even know what to really say to you right now. You need to get registered to vote. And I know that people have all kind of ideas about, voting. Oh, my vote doesn't count, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get into that. But just register to vote, register to vote, register to vote. I can't say it, more. Vote early in your state if it's available. Get into it. Vote early because, the lines are going to be long. It's going to be like Obama 2008 long. Okay. Like this is what it's going to be. And you remember how those lines were. So if you have a state or you're in a state where you can vote early, vote early. If you're in a state where you can request an absentee ballot, get that in as well and get it now and then send it back now. And then you'll be done. You just be done. So again, if you're in a state where you can request an absentee ballot, I believe New York is one of those states, get it in and get it done. And as I said before, plan for long lines. So if you're someplace like Georgia, where they're like, they're always trying to do some shenanigans and trying to pull some things down there, get your walking shoes, get that cooler. Like I said, we know how to get the cooler and tailgate. So get your cooler and get out there and be ready to wait, or get your cooler and bring people snacks. So we're standing online, like really do something. Let's make this a real community effort with voting this time around or anytime. All right, voting. So the NBA has been doing some things, right? So the NBA is actually opening up some of their arenas so people can vote, so that there'll be more space, people can socially distance themselves. So here is a list of all the cities and where the arenas will be open to vote. They're doing early voting as well as day of voting. So if you go to NBA.com, I believe you got to scroll down, but they will tell you, how, when, if you can vote at the arenas, how that works, make sure your name's there, all that good stuff. So get into it. There's all kind of ways to vote. So make sure you are doing that. And finally, two things. Like I said, the more you know. We used to love those PSAs, right? The more you know. So if you're not sure about where to vote, how to vote, how you can help, volunteering, all these things, here's a list of resources: vote.org, I Am a Voter, When We All Vote, BlackVotersMatterFund.org, and Fair Fight. All these things, just get into it. If you feel like you want to make sure that everybody can really vote, if you're concerned about voter suppression, these are some great resources for you to be in the fight. If you feel like you're not somebody who's necessarily going to be, say on the front lines of some of these other protests that are going on, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of places you can be. Also, we need poll workers because of COVID-19. A lot of poll workers, if you think about it, when you go to vote, most of the people you see helping out are retirees. And with COVID, a lot of the folks that normally might be there are at higher risk. So if you're somebody who feels like you're more comfortable, can be out for the entire day, because if you do volunteer, I believe that you have to be there for the entire day wherever you are. Please sign up and do it now, because it takes a little bit of time to get certified or registered, all kind of stuff. I believe you have to take a class. So if you can volunteer, because we need you. We need everybody right now. This is like not even a game right now. We can't, you can't sit around. You can't sit home. There's so much work to be done. And there's a lot of ways to help, even if you think that, you're not somebody who can, be, like I said, in the streets or whatever. If that's not really your bag, there's so much we can do to make sure that this election happens fair. All right. So I am going to move on. I'm very excited about our first guest. I'm going to read her bio. But you know what? Oh, no. First, actually, I'm going to bring her in first. Because I like to sort of, see people's faces and let people really receive all of the goodness that is them. So coming to the stage. I know, I just say coming to the stage. I missed the stage. Coming to the stage. We have Ms. Kat Dyson.
Well, hello. My gosh. So happy to be with you today.
Oh my gosh, Kat, it's so good to see you. It's
Same
so
here. Last time we saw each other, we were grooving hard.
I know we were grooving hard. Indeed. We're gonna get into that in a minute. But I want to tell people about who you are. And like I always say, I got notes because listen, between Pat and Kat, these women have they've done it. So I'm truncating their bios, but I'm just going to give you a little bit. So Kat Dyson, or Miss Dyson, if you're nasty, is a Southern-born guitarist, vocalist who relocated to Los Angeles from Montreal via Minneapolis. When she was a featured guitarist and vocalist with Prince, that's why I have my earring on, as a member of the New Power Generation. Yes, yes. Her contributions to this musical alliance can be heard on Emancipation, The Truth, and New Power Soul. And other of Kat's career highlights, and there are many, include performing with Cyndi Lauper, Natalie Cole, Yolanda Adams, Phoebe Snow, Ivan Neville, George Clinton, P-Funk All-Stars, Benny King, Big Mama Thornton, Celine Dion, and Odetta. She has recorded with Keb Mo, Ziggy Marley, Sheila E., Bernie Worrell, Sly and Robbie, Dave Stewart of Eurythmics, and Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. She has been the featured lead guitarist in talk show bands, including The Wayne Brady Show, The Donnie and Marie Show, and The Magic Hour. She has several tours under her belt, and she has several film and television credits to boot. And she's doing a whole bunch of things now, even in COVID. I just saw her the other day performing with Kate Pearson. And she is, and I'm calling everybody out because I know that I am sort of an undercover Delta. People don't know this, but Kat is, I don't know if she would call herself undercover, but I just found out that she's a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So I am excited to have with us on the show, Ms. Kat Dyson. Yay!
Yes. The gardeners were cutting the grass today. I don't have COVID.
No. No, we know. It's crazy you say that though, because like in the springtime when COVID was really popping here in New York, well, in California too.
Yeah. I
was like, it's allergy season.
On top of everything else, right?
On top of everything else.
Gosh.
So I understand. But thank you so much, Kat, for being here.
For asking me, my gosh. I love your show. You know, I love what you're doing. I love, that you're pushing the needle forward is, inside your thing. And, for all the people, and I'm just going to say this, who think that, musicians and artists who also pay taxes, who are also registered to vote, who are also part of this country, should have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Right.
We pay taxes. We pay,
we pay lots of taxes.
The ticket prices that you give us, guess what?
Yeah, like we're paying taxes, a lot of taxes.
Yeah, in the higher percentile most of the time because we're self-employed. So
exactly,
we do, and we will always have a say.
Absolutely. So I'm going to roll back a little bit, about me and you, because I was trying to remember where we met, and I'm trying to think if it was with Toshi at the Schomburg, maybe.
Yeah, it was Toshi.
Yeah. Okay. And you were definitely somebody whose name I had been hearing for a long time. And then, we ended up doing that show together, and then many others, because like we were talking off camera, but like you were saying, we then, met up again at Black Women Rock in Detroit, which has always been a blast.
And with Mama Funk, honey, Mama Funk, she connects us all. She is our touchstone.
Exactly. So those of you who don't know, the Black Women Rock was started by Jessica Care Moore, but it is in honor of Betty Davis. And if you're not sure who Betty Davis is, and I'm not talking about the actress, if you're not sure who Betty Davis is, y'all go on and Google it. Okay, that's my thing, because we don't have time to get into that right now. But that is an event that still happens. But when I believe 15, 16 years, Jessica's been doing that event. I think this year for COVID, of course, everything was virtual and so on and so forth. But yeah. But the last time Kat and I were together, it was for the 15th anniversary.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you make your way? Like your bio talks about Montreal, Minneapolis, but it also talks about your Southern roots. So what got you to Minneapolis? I'm just going to jump right over there.
Well, I was at Norfolk State University. I ended up with a couple of my classmates going up to Canada, and we started an originals band called Chucon. And that band won their version of Star Search, which was called Rock Wars.
Okay.
And Oscar Peterson's niece, Sylvia Sweeney, sent our tape to a producer friend of hers in LA, and we ended up getting on Star Search, and we won Star Search.
Okay.
And the night we won Star Search, another cat won Star Search in the dance category.
Who was?
The cat, I wanted to rap, the cat with that cat.
Oh.
Yes. 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 Yes.
That's so funny.
People get us confused, but we're not the same.
Okay.
And then, we won. We did an album. The band did our thing, and the band disbanded, but we were all still friends, and we all started doing our solo careers, and I started touring with other people.
Okay.
And, I was going to the NAMM show a lot, demonstrating for Godin Guitars, which is a Canadian company. Shout out to Godin. Robert Godin was the first company to give me a full page ad as a black female guitar player in Guitar Player magazines in the trades.
Wow.
He took that leap, and I don't know that it had been done in that way. And at one of the NAMM shows, I was there with Rhonda Smith, and we were, like I said, demonstrating for Godin. And I met Sheila E. And then we went over to the German NAMM show, which is called the Music Mesa.
Yeah.
Sheila saw us perform. She was there with Ndugu and a bunch of other people. And she was putting together an all-female supergroup at the time. She said, well, I'm talking to Michelle Delgicello. I'm talking to Wendy and Lisa. I like the way you guys play. You send me some of your stuff. Do you write? Do you play other styles of music? We had a quick chat. So we sent her packages, sent her a bunch of stuff. And that was in March. And 2 months later, Rhonda gets a call. And Sheila calls us up and says, things have changed. Prince just changed his whole band and he wants girls. So Rhonda goes first, and I join her up there a couple of months after. And she goes up first. She's a bass player. And, she auditions, she does some recording, she does some things, and she's not knowing what it's gonna be. And then I get a call, and then that's just
there it is.
Sheila pushed us forward. She's the master connector.
That's amazing. I'm sure we could probably do a whole show on the life and times of Prince, because I know with him it's a time. But that's pretty amazing. Like I always am interested in how folks kind of get to Minneapolis, because I know many who have kind of like made their way there in one way or another. So yeah. But I want to know, like, because you talked about, you went right to a place I was going to go to, sort of that company, the Canadian company, as you said, it was the people that gave you that first full page ad. So what was the thing, I guess, for you as a Black woman guitarist and moving into, rock and roll? Was rock and roll your first, thing, or was that sort of like what you ended up in? But, was that your real passion? So how did that whole thing of being a Black woman in rock for you kind of come to the fore?
Well, I was raised like a regular Southern girl, taking piano lessons and doing the whole thing. And on top of it, our family was Catholic, living in Virginia.
Okay.
So the first thing I learned how to sing were in Latin, because the first song I ever learned was Ave Maria. So I was always singing, and I was always playing piano and doing the things that little Southern girls do. And then the boys kept getting guitars and playing outside and making it look fun, and I'm in there. And I'm not very good at it, and we didn't have a piano, so I had to practice at my teacher's house, and he was really tough. So it was really tough to even get into it. I'm like, Mom, can I have a guitar, Mom? Please, Mom, please, Mom. And she and my auntie put their money together and went to J.C. Penney's and got me one of those, the acoustic guitar kits where you get the book and get the thing, la la
Yeah.
la. Unfortunately, within a year of me getting that guitar, my mom died of aneurysm.
Hmm.
Uh, Guitar kind of helped me grieve. It kind of helped me heal. It was the last thing she gave me. And, I learned how to play. In the little book it had As Tears Go By, the Marianne Faithfull / Rolling Stones. And that was one of the first songs I learned how to play and sing. And she says, you can do this. But I want to be somebody that looks like you doing this. So my dad was a jazz aficionado. He would come home and say, turn that rock and roll off, turn that garbage music. That's not our music. And he would put on, Miles Sketches of Spain.
Right.
That was his Friday. I got my check, he's putting on like, heavy jazz. And I'm like 9. I'm like, Dad, West Montgomery, that's 2 guys. To me, I'm like a kid. It sounds like 2 guys playing. My mother was into gospel and opera and Marian Anderson and Linton Price. So she went out and she found me Odetta records of Odetta actually on the cover with a guitar in her hand. She's like,
yes.
I want you to see somebody that looks like you do. And in full circle, about 20, 30 years after that, I'm at a music festival in Halifax with a gospel choir that I had been part of in Montreal, Montreal Jubilation Gospel Choir. Shout out to Dr. Trevor Payne and the choir. And we're doing a sound check. And I'm doing Mary Don't You Weep, and I played on guitar, and I kind of scat part of it. And my eyes are closed, and I open my eyes up, and walking down the aisle with her arms open wide like this is Odetta walking towards me. And she hugs me. She had never met me. And I'm like, okay, this is my guitar mom. And I became friends with her until she passed, and visited her a lot of times in New York. And we hung out, and she just shared so much with me. So yeah. So that's
amazing.
Kind of how that all.
Right. All intertwined.
Yes. One second. I'm just going to get a little something for my allergy nose.
No problem. I'm going to ask why you're working on your allergy nose. You've played with so many people, and I know that, being a Black woman, doing rock and roll, what are some of the challenges that you faced sort of coming through? Or were you kind of surprised at, how people were accepting, or was it a little of both?
I've been 5'10" since I was 12. So
okay.
Clubs and lie about my age.
Right.
Tall. And, guys would come up to the amp, put their head next to it, because it was a band that had 2 guitar players. So they said, okay, this is a gimmick. She's a fake.
Wow.
Guys, they got to do it. They got to do it. They got to do it. I had 4 brothers. I had my brothers who checked every minute. My family played instruments. I had one brother who acted like he wanted to play a little bit, but he didn't really get into it because my father was like, work with your hands. Play music, work with your hands. He was once my mom passed, he was a widow with 7 kids. So
wow.
He raised us in the Army way. So I kind of went against the grain, and we butt heads and fought a lot because I would sneak out and play clubs till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Make breakfast for everybody, like at 13, 14. So I was getting lots of trouble. First band that I ever played in, the manager actually bought my guitar, but he kept it because my dad would lock my guitar in the room. So I would.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So but I mean, eventually he was proud of me, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Of course.
But going up to Montreal and being in that originals band and writing music, and I was able to go a lot from Montreal to New York because they had an Amtrak, and I used to just grab the train on the weekend and just go down to the jam sessions. And that's how I met Cindy Blackman and Tracy Wormworth and Felicia Collins
Mhm.
and so many other female musicians who were doing it, who were making it happen. We were all at those late night jam sessions, you know, playing Cherokee, Godspeed, and everybody, taking everybody's chops out, and that whole scene. So, and through that connection, I was able to, touch with the people in Black Rock Coalition and met, Living Color. I met Vernon and all those guys. I met Felicia when she was working at a music store on 48th Street.
Wow. Yeah.
Guys were driving around with the gear in the van, and they were in the van going to the gig. So you build friendships like that, and through a recommendation from Felicia, who had gotten the call to go to Letterman, she was playing with Cyndi Lauper at the time, and she says, "Well, Cindy wants to replace a woman with a woman, so you want to audition? You want to come down and audition?" There's gonna be, it was 30 women. And, New York is not a joke around town. So, she told me what songs to learn. I learned them. At my audition, Phoebe Snow was there.
Wow.
Hanging out with Cindy.
Right. Yeah.
And I played the songs, and I think the last song was something with a wah-wah pedal. And Cindy says, "So, can you dance like Felicia? Can you dance?" She's like, and I'm like, "Well, I can move as long as I'm not playing a song where I need to have my foot on this pedal."
Right.
And Phoebe laughed and said, "I like her. She's kind of spunky, And we had Thai food after that, and I got the gig. And Cindy and I have been friends, since
Right.
then. I'm one of the many godmothers of her kid.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, it's funny because you played with Cindy, and then my other, dear friend Alex Nolan also played with Cindy for a while. So yeah, Cindy, I'm like 1 degree of separation from Cindy. She doesn't know. She needs to know me though.
Yes, she does. She will.
So speaking of that, so right before COVID, I believe that's who you were working with, right?
Yeah,
Right
we had gone over for the 35th anniversary of her releasing her first record, She's So Unusual, to Japan. So we'd gone over and we were in Japan for a month, and then we went to the Philippines for New Year's Eve, which was fantastic. And then during the Grammy week, of course, I did the thing with Sheila, the
right. Mm-hmm.
And the first week of March, I was doing a fundraiser with Cindy in New York for like the Broadway Singers kind of foundation. I don't think I have the name of the organization correct, but it was to benefit Broadway singers and actors. A fund to make sure they're taken care of if they're sick, if they need food, if they need housing. It was a big to do. Sure. Week after that, everything got shut down.
Wow.
So Cindy got on FaceTime and started talking about music software and showing each other this, and she's like, "I'm trying to learn this thing here, I'm trying to learn the GarageBand thing, and what can we do?" And we did something together, and Kate Pearson, who I'd worked with the B-52s, thanks to when their guitar player had some other gigs in Europe, I subbed for him, and she wanted to do something, and so many of my friends are just reaching out and doing things. So I've been lucky enough to get the call, and then Jessica did the virtual Black Rock, and we gonna keep pounding the drum.
Yeah. How have you been feeling? I know you've been doing stuff with other people, but how have you been feeling creatively, personally, like in this time? Because I know for me in the beginning, I really didn't feel like singing, and I really didn't feel like writing, and obviously it's shifted, here I am. I'm not singing quite yet, but I am actually, but it took me a moment to really kind of get myself together in this time. So how has it been for you?
Well, I was actually in the middle of writing a really positive vibrational music project with a dear friend of mine, Joel Beatty, and we were just talking about love and spreading more love. And I the incidents of the violence just took me back to my childhood, to every, and I hate to generalize, but I think every black person has somewhere in their family tree some atrocity that has happened.
Yeah.
Someone, either you're related to or someone you know, that has to do with the overreach of law enforcement,
Yes.
the stay in your place moment, and all those things just washed back over me. And I started to write, but it was very much reactionary. And because I play rock guitar, I love my neighbors. They didn't stop me. I put headphones on. It got kind of loud.
Yeah.
It just brings back that Pandora's box of management that we all have. That I don't think people realize, that the constant, whether it's conscious or not, the drip, drip, drip of scrutiny, of racism, whether it's realized or not, is nerve wracking. It will drive you to insanity, because until you go into your house and close your door, and sometimes you have to turn off your television because you are reminded of it even there.
Yes. Yes.
It is a drum. It is that clock in your house that just ticks too loud, but you do need to have it on because you need to know what time it is. But
Yeah.
you just want to break it because it doesn't stop.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I wrote a lot of that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Gonna do with it, but you gotta write it, you gotta get it out, you gotta say it, you have to give it a voice. And I've just been, luckily I've been doing other projects and asked to write some music for documentaries and all types of things. So I've tried to keep myself creatively, I'm not going to say juggling, but
Flowing.
Creatively flowing to do good.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I did have to get it out, and it's pretty dark, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just getting it out.
Yeah, you got to get it out.
Yeah. So that you can move forward. Yeah.
I've had a lot of discussions, and one of my mental health days is to go out and actually play golf.
Nice.
And on the golf course, I've had many discussions with many kinds of people, because here in LA, golf that I can play is pretty much run by the parks and recs, city parks and recs. So when you make a reservation, unless you go there with a friend who's made a reservation, you don't know who you're going to play with.
Ah, okay, right.
And even though you got masks on and everybody's got their own card, total strangers,
right?
Of the time. And there have been some interesting conversations.
But that's the work, you know what I mean? Like, that's the work sometimes, and that
the elephant in the room, the elephant on the course.
On the course,
running through the field,
probably straight
feed.
And probably immediately just from them seeing you there, it's like, oh.
Absolutely. And my story is always the same. They go, "Oh, you play golf because you like Tiger?" I'm like, "No, I play golf because my father loved golf."
Yeah.
Golf was a Sunday thing where he knew my brothers would run because they hated that sport. They would go outside and he had his quiet moments, and he would watch. It was the one sport he wanted to play. And after coming home from 2 wars, he was not able to play in Virginia. So I played for him. And when I say that, then it's crickets on the court.
Well, Kat, I'm going to leave us on that note because that's right dear to my heart, because my father is also an avid golf person and my parents play together. And I understand. I want to thank you so much. I feel like I want to have you back. Like, I feel like every guest that I have on, I'm like, I think people are going to have to return because
we got to do a music panel. Me, you, Lona. We got
yes.
Lona, Jessica. We got to get the music. I guess we have to have the music chat.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I'm gonna put that together because this show is gonna go on. But I thank you and love you so much. And if you want to hang in the backstage area and continue watching, you can.
Hey.
But I'm gonna take a little short break and then I'm gonna bring Pat on. But I love you, and stay safe. And I hope to see your face in person again soon.
Oh, you will. I'm not afraid to get on the plane. I got the disposable hazmat suit. Yes, I do.
This is why I
have them on Amazon.
All right, everybody. Kat Dyson.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, Kat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love Kat so much. So we're going to do a quick break because I forgot to show us the forecast for the moon. So we're going to do the moon forecast, and then I'm going to bring our state senator from Nevada, Pat Spearman. So here we go. Tonight, we find our moon transiting Gemini in the 7th phase of her cycle, the last quarter moon. At the halfway point between last week's full moon in Pisces and the impending new moon in Virgo, we find ourselves in the home stretch of the current lunar cycle. If you work a 9 to 5, think of that mid-afternoon moment when you need a pick-me-up to get you through the end of the day. It's often that tipping point at the junction of, when will this be over? And, oh my God, where did the time go? This is a good moment to pause and reflect upon intentions we may have set on the last new moon. Assess our progress, and ascertain what can still be accomplished or started. The last quarter moon is a point at which the pathway to these outcomes may be clearest. While our Gemini moon may fill us with ideas and the urge to communicate or record all of them, 2 notable transits are taking place in the heavens, which will affect everyone in varying ways. The Sun in Virgo will form a harmonious aspect with Jupiter, the benefic planet, to which blessings and good fortune, opportunities, and optimism are ascribed. With the moon in Gemini, we may receive or deliver some good news. Or we may just receive a lot of news as Jupiter magnifies and multiplies. The other major planetary event coinciding with this final quarter moon is the commencement of a Mars retrograde, which will last until November 13th. Since Mars is closer than usual to the Earth during this period, the energies emitted by the planet feel more pronounced. On the day of this talkative Gemini moon, exercise care with what you say, lest a heated Mars moment be sparked. Lean into peace and harmony and the idea that the best thing would be for everyone to get along. Take advantage of the continuing Virgo season and make a plan to streamline your approach to fulfilling your intentions set 3 weeks ago. This quarter moon reading was brought to you once again by Moist Paula at Zodiac Soundtracks. Welcome to the last quarter moon in Gemini. Hi. I figured I'd just come right in with you.
It's okay.
How are you? Oh, wait. I just want to say, I like to introduce to the show, or come to the stage, as I've been saying. I'm going to turn myself down. I think I'm feeding back a little.
That's okay.
Nevada State Senator Pat Spearman. Yay!
What's up?
So good to see your face. You know, of course, we had a nice conversation on Saturday. I know folks don't know, but now they know. And it was really great to get to know you in that conversation. I am hearing a little feedback. I don't know if you're loud, if you can maybe turn your volume down. I don't know. Because maybe that'll help a little. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's see. Yes, that's better.
Okay.
I think it's a little better. Awesome. So like I said to Kat earlier, I'm going to read a little bit of your bio because I like to let people know who I'm talking to. And like I said, you have so many, you've done a lot. and I could read, like, I was looking at your bio and I was like, how am I going to pull out the things, to say? So I'm just going to read a little bit and then we're going to get into it. So Nevada State Senator Pat Spearman. She is or was among the first students to integrate her high school in Alabama. She is an Army veteran who served 29 years and rose through the ranks to lieutenant colonel, serving in the Army Operations Center of the Pentagon, among other prestigious posts. She organized for President Obama's 2008 presidential campaign and helped him achieve a 12.5-point victory in Nevada, the state's largest margin of victory in 2 decades. In 2012, Pat filed to run in Nevada's first Senate district and defeated the incumbent with 63% of the vote, making her the first openly LGBTQ plus member of the Nevada State Senate. The senator has used her role to pass countless legislations on LGBTQ rights, economic development, veterans affairs, equal rights, healthcare, criminal justice reform, and victims' rights. She was invited to speak at the 2016 DNC and continues to serve her state and country to the fullest. Welcome to the show, Pat Spearman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I am so
excited.
Right? Say that again.
I got something for you, right?
You do have something for me. Let me tell you something about what you got on. Let me tell you something, because when I was watching your video when you were on, which I have listed in the credits so people can watch, when you were on with Rachel Maddow, and I was like, listen, she is rocking that suit. And you are fresh and clean. Yes, 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 yes.
Represent.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yes, thank you. And you look beautiful. Amazing, amazing. So I just want to say, because I didn't know, and Kat just hit me to the fact, and because I'm a Delta, and I've been saying to my fans, I got 2 AKAs on the show, and it's exciting. I'm happy about that. I'm having a lot of pan-Hellenic pride going on right now. Yeah. But I didn't realize that y'all were fans, and I love that. I love that. That is a beautiful thing. I just want to thank you both for making that connection, and and we are doing this, and I'm really excited about this.
Kat was actually one of my big sisters when I pledged.
Ah, okay.
We both pledged when I think we were 12.
Yes, me too. Me too. We were really smart girls in college. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I just want to, where did I put? Oh, here we go. I have all kind of notes. There are so many things to talk about. I mean, we had such in-depth conversation, but I really want to start off with voting, because the reason why, or not even the reason why, but when Kat put me in touch with you, she sent me, like I said, that video of you talking on the Senate floor about voting. And one of the things that you were saying and had said to me, it's like, what generation free are you? Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. I think it's something that we don't really think about. I think I was saying to you, or saying to another friend of mine, that sometimes history, because it's history and it seems like so far away, it almost just feels like a story in a way. It doesn't really have the weight. But I want you to really talk about that, and what brought you to that, to talk about that, particularly on the Senate floor that day.
So we were debating, getting ready to vote on Assembly Bill 4, which in essence would allow voting to take place by mail, or you could vote in person early, or you could vote on November the 3rd. And it was designed because we're in this pandemic. And I just don't think people should have to choose between living and voting.
Hello.
And I listened to my Republican colleagues, and they were saying things like, well, voting by mail, that's going to mean people can harvest ballots, and it's something that a lot of people aren't used to, and they were going on and on and on. And so I had to remind them, in the military, when we were overseas, that's the only way we could vote.
Right.
And quite frankly, you know, there is no real distinction between absentee ballot and mail-in voting. I tell people, you can, if you're having a problem, with that concept, go find a second grader and ask them to look it up on Google. And I promise you, when they pull up the definition, there will be no differentiation. It's semantics. And I also wanted to say to them, every time we start talking about voting and making sure that BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, making sure that we have our rights and we are able to exercise our rights. I said, y'all always come up with something. And I said it just like that. Y'all always come up with something. I mean, you know, you either count the jelly beans in the jar, you know.
Yes.
I mean, you know, so, you know, and who you got? Is there a white man here that can vouch for you? I mean, you all always come up with something. And so, you know, for me, it was really a matter, and I wanted to remind them, we're not that far removed from the 1965 Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
And as I said on the floor, my grandmother was barely born free. She was first generation. My dad was born free. And then there's me, I'm third generation. But when my dad was born, there was really no hope of being able to vote without jumping through hoops.
Right.
I am the first generation to grow up and expect to exercise my right to vote because it is law. And so for me, voting it's sacred. And I think that they keep coming up with a lot of things because they know, Shelley, listen, when we vote, as Kamala said, things change.
Yes.
And they know that when we vote, things change, you know, and when we vote, we make sure that people get to the White House that need to be there. If you remember in 2008, when Obama ran, I remember standing, I mean, it was early voting, okay? And I remember we all went to Souls to the Polls that Sunday, and the line was wrapped around the store like 2 times. And everybody kept saying, well, he can't win. You know, a Black man can't win. I said, watch this. Okay? When we vote, things change. And that's why they don't want us to vote this time, because they know when we vote, oh, boy's got to go.
Right, right.
Got to go. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that whole absentee versus mail-in, because like you said, not only is it, you know, soldiers who are voting overseas, but then there are people, you know, American citizens that just live overseas and, like you said, have been voting by mail forever, you know?
So how about this? How about this? There are 4 people that the president knows who already have their mail-in / absentee ballots. Let me name them for you. Donald Trump.
Right.
What's his wife's name?
Yeah, her.
Her and Mike Pence. And his wife, who he calls mother. You know, there are 4 people who already have their mail-in ballots already. And so now something's wrong with the system now. And so, you know, when he says things like, you know, go and vote, you know, do your mail-in ballot and then go to the polls, you know what he's really trying to do? He's trying to punctuate that whole notion that it's going to be some type of fraud involved.
Right.
Some people will listen to him, and that's what they'll do. And listen, everybody that's listening to me now, please tell your family, your friends, mom and them, lottie-dottie, and everybody, tell them you cannot vote twice. You will go to jail. Don't listen to him. You can, when you get your mail-in ballot, if you're in the kind of state that like we are, you get your mail-in ballot, fill it out and mail it back in.
Right.
As soon as you do, don't wait until the middle of October, because they've already jacked up the postal system trying to make sure that the mail is late.
Right.
While they've done that, they have hurt veterans like me, disabled veterans like me, who rely on the postal system to get our prescriptions.
Right.
They have messed up older people for whom life-saving drugs come in the mail. Some people, they've got to have their medicine for diabetes. They have to have their medicine for CHF. They've got to have congestive heart failure. They've got to have their medicine for a number of these things. And so in his effort to make sure we don't vote, he just messed it up for everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that's the thing that I've been thinking. It's not just Black folks, brown folks, who are, might need to mail in a ballot. It's like his or their constituents as well. So I'm like, what's the logic there? Or is there just none? You know what I'm saying? Because it's just really baffling to me.
Yeah, so there is no logic. I mean, if you've been following this guy for as long as he's been around, it doesn't have to make sense.
Right. Right.
Make stuff up. And like Michelle Obama said, the thing that we ought to be convinced of right now, he's in over his head. He cannot do the job. He cannot be who we need him to be for such a time as this. And one of the reasons why we must make sure that he is voted out of office is because if we get 4 more years of him and we have a spineless Republican Party who will just rubber stamp everything, we get 4 more years of him and we don't flip the Senate and hold on to the House of Representatives. I got friends talking about they're getting ready to go to Brazil.
Yeah.
They just don't want to live here. And he doesn't want us to vote again because he knows that once we get him out of there and once we get a federal Senate and a federal House of Representatives, U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives, and we keep in Nevada, we have a majority Democrat, and we keep the state legislatures that we already have and probably flip some more. He already knows that in the post world of the 17-year-old carrying AR-15, he already knows that there will be laws against that. And that dude won't be waving.
Right.
He already knows that. He already knows that once we flip the Senate and we hang on to the House and we keep state legislatures, he already knows that the crime bill, the George Floyd crime bill, will be passed. He already knows that. He already knows that this will be the beginning. His defeat on November 3rd will be the beginning of the end for police officers just deciding, I'm going to go out and shoot a Black man.
Right. Right.
Now, let me say this. I'm a retired MP. Okay. I'm a military police officer. Yes. So I worked the streets, when I was a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and sometimes as a captain. I understand policing. I understand fear for your life. But there ain't no way in hell you're going to tell me that I'm getting in my car and I'm not bothering you and you grab my T-shirt and then pump 7. No.
Right.
No,
exactly.
No. And the gentleman in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
If you show up to a place and the family's saying he's having a mental episode and we just need someone to help. If you look at a person and they are stripped down naked, right? March. Okay? I don't know how many people listening know what New York weather is like in March, especially upstate New York.
Right.
They got the brother on the ground naked, putting a hood over his face. No, that's not policing.
No.
When we get the job done on November 3rd, that will be the beginning of the end of the license to kill Black folks and get away with it.
So tell me, because you were talking about, right, because you were also talking about flipping the Senate. So talk about that, because all these, we're all over the place. Some of our states, we're not really concerned about that, but we know that there are battleground states. We know that, Kentucky is a battleground state. We know South Carolina is a battleground state. So talk a little bit about that and how, if you're not in one of those states, can you be effective in helping to flip those seats?
So I'm glad you asked that, because you can always do virtual phone banking. You don't have to be in there. If you contact your state Democratic Party, you contact them and tell them you want to do phone banking, they will get you a link to a list and you can phone bank for that candidate. Here's a little bit about Kentucky. We need to fire Mitch McConnell.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yes.
You need to fire him, because if he were not there, Merrick Garland would be on the Supreme Court.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
If he were not there, the families that are still struggling and they can't make it because that $600 check is no longer coming. If he weren't there, they would have it.
Right.
If McConnell were not in the Senate, the HEROES bill would have been passed out of the Senate. The House passed it back in May, sent it over to the Senate, and it's been sitting on his desk. And it deals with funding PPEs. It deals with making schools and hospitals and things safe. It deals with all those things. So Mitch McConnell's got to go.
Yes.
Gone back to Kentucky, okay? Gone back to Kentucky, and let Amy McGrath get in there and get some things done for Kentuckians, okay? And she is so dedicated about making sure she hits every part of Kentucky. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but Kentucky is basically a rural state.
Mm.
You have Louisville and you have Lexington. And then the rest of it is basically rural, okay? She is a retired Marine Corps fighter pilot. And so you know what she's doing? She's driving where she can drive, and she's flying where she can't drive. She flies her own prop plane to go and speak to people and to meet people. She wants to win.
Yes.
Number two, I have no idea what happened to Lindsey Graham. No idea. And, you know, they tell me there's an APB out right now for his soul, and they have you know, it was at first it was a search and rescue. It's search and recover. Okay, they're convinced he will not survive. Whatever that was that happened to him after John McCain passed away. Okay, it was permanent. So he needs to go back to South Carolina, because everything that this president does, he co-signs for him. And I don't know anyone in South Carolina, and I don't know everybody, but I don't know anyone in South Carolina who wants to have someone represent you, and you don't know if they're going to be the same at 12 o'clock noon and 12:15 in the afternoon.
Well,
okay?
Come on. Yes.
Just keep that in mind. If you're in South Carolina and you get ready to go to vote, you need to go on and vote for Jamie Harrison.
Yes.
And the crew has just come back, and they've given up on search and rescue. It's now going to be search and recovery. We're looking for a soul. We're trying. Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's part of it. The other thing that I want to say is, so in 2020, this is the time for the census. And they don't want it to be counted either. So you have the president trying to truncate that timeline. It's gonna end right now. Okay. So fill out your census form. It only takes maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. That's all. Yes. Somebody knocks on your door and they show you a badge and they are a census worker. Make sure that you answer the door. And this is why it's important, because post-COVID, there are going to be a lot of people in our communities that are going to need desperate health care.
Yes.
The census is what tells people how many people are in that state. And so when monies are coming to that state to help people get out of COVID-19 situations, it is based upon the number of people who answered the door or filled out the form. That's it matters, because how many people do you know that have a small business and they have a family and they can't figure out, okay, so I got to go to work today, but my child is sick, or I need to take them to okay, so filling out the census form pulls money into the state for childcare, right?
Yes.
Fill out the census form. What it does is it makes sure that we're counted, and the things that are important to our communities, make sure that they rise to the top. So fill out the census. Don't be invisible. So that's number one. Number two, after the census has been taken in 2021, every state legislature in the country, to include Nevada, is going to be looking at the results, how many people answered the census, and based upon that, that determines how many members of the House of Representatives we have. So, for example, in the year 2010, Nevada had 3 members of the House of Representatives. After the census in 2011, we were authorized 4, which means that we have increased our number, which means that there are more voices in Washington speaking for us.
Right.
Other thing that happens when we get the information and we look at the way that the lines have been drawn, the precincts have been drawn, the districts have been drawn. You know, in 2010, what most of the part of what I represent now was not part of Senate District 1.
Okay.
So here's the deal. You have people who do not want us to vote, and they know if they can either keep a state legislature in their hands or flip it from blue to red, they know they will be the ones drawing the lines. Okay? I have 2 words to say: North Carolina. And the Supreme Court said it was with surgical precision that they drew those lines. I have a friend whose daughter was going to Winston-Salem. And you know what? She's on one side in the same dorm, on one side of the dorm, and she's in one precinct. And if she crossed the hall to her friend's dorm room, that's another precinct. Ooh. It was drawn like that to dilute the Black vote. And so we've got to make sure that we hang on to state legislatures as well. Okay? We gotta hold the House of Representatives. Yeah. We flip the Senate. And we have to make sure that we're voting for people to represent us in the state legislatures that will be conscious of the fact voting is a right. And voting, as Stacey Adams says, you know, voting is the only right that you lose if you don't use it. If you get 100, you don't use it for 10 years, you don't lose that. Okay, but they want to come up with everything that they can to make sure that we lose it. So what we got to do is we know what we got to do. Let's go on and get the work done. And let me say this too. I want people to start thinking about this. We're playing defense right now. We've got to learn to play offense in this. Every state has a Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Every state has a Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is one of those positions that most people don't even know about. They have no idea what that person does. In 2014, if Brian Kemp had been defeated and not won the position of Secretary of State, you and I would be talking about what Governor Stacey Abrams is doing to protect the vote in Georgia. Got it? Yeah. Because the Secretary of State is the chief elections officer in every state. The Secretary of State is the one who decides, well, this is how long early voting will be. This is where we're going to put the polls. This is how long they will be open. And if you don't have the right person in there, they will try to shrink early voting. A couple of years ago, ours tried to do away with souls to the polls. And we're like, we listen, the answer for you is 2 words, and one of them's no. Figure it out, okay? So, and during the presidential election in 2016, we had to sue her to make her follow the guidelines of presidential elections that are different from state elections and municipal elections. So make sure you're looking around and challenge your state, your Secretary of State. And if they are not doing what they need to do to protect your right to vote, fire them. They need to. Okay? Yes. Because listen, once we began to take back those seats, and the other side, listen, Shelley, here's the thing. The other side knows this already. They know this. They know that we don't know what the Secretary of State does. They know that when people go to the polls, if it's presidential, they're going to vote for president. They'll vote maybe for senator. They'll maybe vote for somebody in Congress, and then they stop. They don't go all the way down the ballot. And I'm telling people, vote all the way down the ballot. All the way down the ballot.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yes.
Just real quick. Because I want I want to talk about all these things, and we are like way out of time.
I'm
We're
sorry.
like over time, but I want you to come back. Will you come back?
Okay, I will.
Because I feel like I'm so glad, first of all, that you talked about the Secretary of State, because I was going to ask you about that. But I have a bunch of other things too, and I really want to give you more time to do it. So will you come back?
I will.
Yay!
Can I say 3 things?
Yes, you can.
Make sure you're registered and make sure you're checking every day that you're still registered.
Yes.
Checking that you are registered. Number 1. Number 2, make sure that if you're in a state that is doing mail-in ballots, absentee, no different, that they're doing that, make sure you get your ballot and make sure you fill it out and put it back into the mail. There's a way that we can track those ballots to see what happened.
Yes.
After dropped in the mailbox.
Yes.
Or take it to the election center. Okay.
Yes.
3, make sure that when you vote all the way down the ticket. All the way down the ticket. Okay. And if you can't make up your mind, here's a suggestion. If they got a D by their name, Democrat, vote for them.
Word.
Here's the other thing. Look, our backstop to this guy having some kind of shenanigans for the election, our backstop is taking the Senate and holding on to the House. Because we take the Senate and hold on to the House, guess what happens? If the election has not been decided by January 20th, 12 o'clock noon, then Speaker Pelosi becomes President Pelosi, and they figure it out in Congress.
All right.
Senate, and we've got to have the House. So vote, y'all. Vote, y'all.
Yes. Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you so much. I'm clapping for you. Thank you so much. Okay. We're going to have you back. So everybody's watching. We're going to have the senator back. We're going to figure out a date. I'm going to work that out. It's going to happen before the elections because we need to, keep, driving this message home about getting out there. I'm so thankful. I'm going to Kat, I'm going to bring you back real quick.
Okay.
There's Kat. I just want to say thank you to both of you all.
How are you?
Pan-Hellenic gathering of the Deltas and the
AKAs. Baby.
Exactly.
It's a wave that's coming that people don't even know.
Exactly.
I was telling Shelley, there's a song that I heard today, and it's been out for a while, by this kid called Yellow Pen called My Vote Don't Count, and he raps about all of the branches of government and why he thought Obama failed him and why he thought every president failed him, but it's not the president, it's the senators. And, the guys who do the food stamps of this, it lays it out. It lays it out.
That's a great song.
People want to hear it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a great song.
My vote don't count, but your vote does. And he's like, now I changed my mind, and this is why. And it's done so well.
Yeah. I got to find it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I love you both. I'm so thankful to have y'all here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to see you both back because Kat's going to come back. We're going to do a whole music roundtable, and Pat's going to come back, and we're going to get everybody in check for November 3rd.
Listen, I can come back with Kat. Amazing grace.
Yes, you better sing.
Okay. Don't make me act up. Let me get dignified.
Getting to Pat's point, we have to attack McConnell because 4 more years of Trump is 4 more years of McConnell, who's been sitting on over 200 pieces of legislation that could change the lives of every American. He is so braggadocious. He enjoys being called the Grim Reaper, Moscow Mitch. He enjoys that. So I think that Kamala and Joe need to also attack him. Mm-hmm. They need to put a litany, an ad with a litany of the legislation he sits on that he introduces when he chooses to make whoever is president, if they're stepping to his beat, he's going to make them look good. Because half of the stuff that supposedly Trump is getting a win on is legislation that's been sitting there.
Right.
Exactly.
We gotta
Exactly.
go. We gotta go. We be here all night. We're gonna have to do our own private Zoom. I love
Okay.
y'all. Y'all have a good night. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'll see y'all next time. I'm be in touch.
Deuces.
Oh my gosh. I love my people so much. Before I go, because I know we're over time, one day I'm going to figure out this time thing, but I know that I have said that I'm always going to honor a fallen sister. I'm not going to do a whole lot today, but tonight I am honoring our sister, Rekia Boyd. And there's Miss Rekia. And Rekia was killed in Chicago in 2012 by off-duty police officer. And that officer, while there's a whole lot of shenanigans. I can't get into it all right now because we don't have a lot of time, but I'm just going to say that recently he was trying to get what he did expunged from his record. And I'm just going to leave it at that. That did not happen, thank goodness. But I just want to give a shout out to Rekia and the spirit of Rekia. You know, she's somebody, a name that I remember. I often, her name often comes to me. So I just want to give love to her family, the spirit of her family. And on the next show, I'm going to really get into Rekia. I'm going to really tell her story, but I just wanted to say her name and make sure that I, you know, like I said, make sure I said her name before we get out of here. So I'm going to light my candle for Rekia. And I'm going to say thank you again for being here and hanging out with me over time. Maybe I should just make my show an hour and a half because it's just this hour thing is not really working out for me. But I'm so thankful to y'all for being here, for watching. Spread the word. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I have my thing. So of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow me on, it's the Blackbush YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter and IG at Punanny Politixxx. You can also follow me on Twitter and IG at Blackbush. I am there. I'm doing all those things. Our next guest next week is going to be my acupuncturist, herbalist healer, Ms. Julia Bennett. We're going to get back into our womb healing and talking more about that because I have been on the journey. I'm still on the journey. So we're going to talk about that. And of course, I'm going to put it up one more time. As the senator said, fill out your census. It only is going to take you 5 minutes. I did it. I swear it take you 5 minutes. They're not asking you questions about naturalization or any of that kind of stuff. It's just about counting who you are, making sure we get a head count so you can get those resources in your community. So that is that, everyone. We about to get out of here. Big love again to my girl, Paula, Moist Paula from Zodiac Tracks for giving us the moon report. We're going to be back here on the new moon next week. Wow, time's flying. So thank y'all and good night. When you recognize